Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hello and welcome to Jen Taylor Rerouting, where being rude is never acceptable, but sarcasm is welcome and swearing isn't always a bad option. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Jen Taylor Rerouting. Today I'm pretty stoked. I'm talking to Lani Rios today. Lani, how are you?
I'm so good, and I love how you say stoked because I live in Bali and nobody says it. Like when I heard you say that the first time when I listened to your podcast, I was like, I love her.
Oh yeah, that's right. Everybody says I'm so excited, and the word excited gets used so many times.
Right.
I have to have like a list of other adjectives. Like, I am excited every time. And you and I had, it wasn't difficult, but the challenge in scheduling was that we're 15 hours apart because you live in Bali.
Right. It is a bit challenging, I guess. Yeah. Because when you guys work, it's the morning.
Right. You're early morning and I'm getting ready to make dinner. So we're 15
right.
hours apart. But you're originally from California, and that's why I can understand you.
Yes, exactly.
So tell me what you do now. Your website is Lani Nalu. Did I do that right?
Yeah, perfect. LaniNalu.com.
.com. And same with Instagram, Lani Nalu 11.
That's right. Yep.
Tell me who you are and what you do.
So I love starting at the good stuff because that's exactly how I coach. I'm like, let's get you into your power. Let's freaking fly. Let's talk about all the good shit. So right now I coach entrepreneurs, and I specifically work with women, and I work with entrepreneurs that already have a business. They already know what their gift is. They already have a business rolling, but there's just these basically it helped me before I could just get out of my own way. I was just like shooting myself in the foot and then going, somebody shot me in the foot. I can't get the clients. I can't charge more. I'm exhausted. Everybody's, everybody's taking my energy. And then you'd be like, well, I'm giving it, but I didn't really believe that. I really believed that everybody was taking my energy. So I do energy work, and I have seen in every entrepreneur that I work with that the problem isn't what they're going through now. I did a heap of therapy for my abusive marriage now. He's the problem. This is the problem. I can't get forward because of him, I was just stuck in this moment. But what I can see is that it started a long time ago, sometimes in the womb. Some of my money stories started in the womb. Some started right when I was born. So the problem with doing a lot of work in therapy and just kind of only staying in the surface is that you don't get to the deeper part. You don't ever get to the root of it. You don't ever get to do the work that's really, really uncomfortable. You just stay on the surface. So I get to do this work that's really deep. And I guess I describe it as it scares everyone else. Like everybody runs from it and they're like, I don't want it. I can't talk about it. Oh, you were sexually abused. I can't talk about that. Oh, your husband beat the fuck out of you. I can't talk about that. And for me, it excites me because I'm like, we can just feel this, sister, for a second and cry, and I'm here for you totally with love and support. And again, I have this ability and gift to play with energy and move it and share it so I can love them from wherever in the world they are. I just share my energy, give them this and it's not mine, right? It's coming through me from the universe because I've opened up my field and I've done the root work, so I don't have this shit blocking me. So I can give them this really beautiful, loving, safety energy place where they can go super deep and say shit they've never said to anybody and stuff that they don't even know. And yeah, it just really excites me because I'm I just see me. It's almost like I get to go, it is like this. I get to go back in time. And it wasn't a lack of I wasn't lazy. Dear God, I wasn't lazy. I was just spinning my back wheels for 24 hours a day, working all day, not getting anywhere. It wasn't that I didn't have motivation. I've always I've come out what's up? Let's party. I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to fuck shit up. I have all the videos. I have a 6-pack. I'm a little pit bull. I just want to do awesome, epic shit. I'm an adventurer. So it's not this lack of wanting to break through. It's just dude, how do you do that? I don't know how. I was ready for a long time. I was seeking so many men, money, spirit. I'd use spiritual programs to numb, but I didn't know I was doing that. It was just I just didn't even know where to get this ball going. So right now I get to use what I was born with, which is an extreme amount of energy. And when I separated from that, from who I truly am, like someone that cusses, someone that's wild and adventure, like I'm going to pack up and move to Bali. Like I've always been this crazy person. When I separated from that, it actually like killed me. It killed me. It was because I was trying to be what I thought I needed to be. And when what's exhausting is like, you know, this constant state of like trying to play catch up to what you think you need to be. But when I'm just like speaking from my heart, and sometimes I cuss and sometimes I'm not always saying the perfect thing, but when I'm speaking from my heart, it's like I'm partying, like in a way of like, I'm having fun, I'm getting more energy. So the hilarious thing is I spent so many years like trying to just like be this amazing person. And I'm like, dude, all I had to do was just get to the root of the problem, clear my energy field, and just be me. So I feel like it's this everyday thing. I'm like, okay, don't put that mask on, like take the mask off. You don't need that mask to be better. And it's just such a beautiful thing that like actually letting go of all the crap and like stop trying to be something you're not and quit trying to pretend is like really my superpower. Like I help women just by being me. Just by being me. It's so mind-blowing because for so long I was like, oh, I can't make $1 million. I have to be like proper and I have to dress a certain way, and I couldn't cuss, and you can't have fun if you're making $1 million. And I just had like so many just weird rules because of all these weird money stories I had growing up. So yeah, right now I work with energy and I get to share it through time and space. I work online, so it doesn't matter where anybody is. I get to share it and connect to it because it's coming through me. And our energy fields are, you know, cosmic, infinite, gigantic. And I get to help women entrepreneurs actually really, really authentically raw, be themselves, and then go change the world and help other women from just being them.
I have questions. I have
Oh,
direct.
cool.
Okay. So I mean, I totally get to do a certain thing, you have to conform, it's in the box, right? You have to fit everything in the box, and you have to be a certain way and look a certain way. And I think it's so the opposite, but it takes people a long time to figure that out.
Totally.
And the more
it's
raw,
scary.
it's scary.
You're rejected for being you. Yeah.
Right. It's easy to be rejected when you're wearing a mask.
Totally.
It's not really you. So
totally, 100%.
I always tell my kids, be 100% yourself, because then when people like you or don't like you, they will genuinely like or dislike you.
I love that, yeah.
But if you're pretending to be someone else, nothing about that is true. None of your friendships, none of your relationships. But being raw and authentic always gets the best result. It's the hardest to do at first, and then the easiest because it's who you are.
Yeah, you're like,
right?
This is so much easier. I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. More fun. I do it. I love it.
Okay, and then the question I have is, when people come to you for work and they're like, this is my issue, do you find that usually the issue that they first say isn't really the issue? It's an undercurrent.
Oh, totally. That's just like a pattern. I totally find that. And I really guide like this intuitive connection, and meditation is the first step I do with clients. So like, it's not that you need to be an expert meditation, because for years I did the meditation thing where I was like, you know, watching, oh, I can't think about, oh, I'm broke. And like, that's not meditation. Like that's our human side putting on this mask going, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. So when I kind of talk to people, I'm like, okay, that's not a meditation. A meditation is like literally pure oneness, where you are in the cosmos, where everything is so beautiful. The word fat doesn't live there. Like it's not even, it's two different realms. We're in the human realm where everything's all fucked up and we're never good enough. And then we're in the cosmic realm. So this sweet spot is marrying both. And for a long time, I would just shoot off into the cosmos because I could just instantly, like the moment I start, for me, it's like I get anxiety or like I start judging. That's like the moment I know that my energy field is closed and I'm like, I don't feel good. Those two energies make me feel like crap. I don't like them. And I start getting like a stomachache and anxiety, and it makes me feel really bad. So I'm like, okay, I just need to open back up, and I would kind of shoot off. But because of my past and everything I've gone through, I didn't like truly feel that my human body could be this pure, perfect thing. I was like, oh, I've got to separate. I'm two different things. I have my cosmic, incredible, beautiful, pure stardust essence that's connected to the universe, and that's one, and that can do anything. and I can always go there and be safe. And then it'd come back to the human part and I'd be like, okay, like, let's struggle. Like, this is the human part. You're like effed up. You're like disgusting. You know, your body was messed with everywhere. Your mind, you were spiritually abused, emotionally abused. So like, you can't have both. And I would get really exhausted. I would notice like, oh my gosh, okay, after client calls and like after, you know, sales calls, seeing if people were right for my program, I would just be flattened out and exhausted. And then I'd start doing the thing where I was trying to be what I thought I needed to be as a coach. And again, what multimillionaires should look like. And I had to really marry the two. So what I find, every woman that comes to me does not believe that they are good enough to receive. That's it. If you can't receive like a simple compliment, if you can't receive feeling really good about the work that you've just put out, if you can't receive fun when you're in the midst of a client call, then like, girl, you ain't receiving millions of dollars. You're not receiving soul clients that are just like badasses, that are fun, that are inspiring, that are going to do the work. Like, it's so funny because I'll be like, I teach women how to receive, and it's like, and I'm like, well, dude, receiving has no boundaries ever. It's eating chocolate, it's making love, it's it's money, it's helping, it's sharing your vision. Like there's no boundary to receiving, but that's what I've seen. So like, oh, this is my problem, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, you just can't receive.
Yeah. Yeah. So take us back. You grew up in California, like I said, and tell me about life growing up. And because Bali was 2012, what year were you born?
Right. I was born in 81.
Okay, so like that's a time frame there.
That's a bit of a gap, yeah.
We got 31 years going on there, right?
Yeah.
Take us through that, because like we talked about before, I find all entrepreneurs that I interview came to their business through their own personal journey. So I want to talk in depth about your personal journey. So lay it on me.
All right, cool. It's so funny because when you said that, I'm all, because you know, it's really gnarly. So I like allow me to feel it every time I talk about it. And for me, that's actually a gift, because I actually just opened up publicly a few months ago about being sexually abused as a child. That's something that I hid for a very long time, because I thought, oh dear God, why would anybody want to get coached by a spiritual worker if I'm broken? Like, that's embarrassing, that's disgusting. And so I hid it for a really long time. So then I got to the point where once I said it, I started actually numbing from it, and I'd write a post and be like, yeah, because I was sexually abused, but I wasn't really feeling it. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. That shit's fucking gnarly. Yeah. Like, I was sexually abused, dude. And then I would go back into the thing where it was like, oh, I said it once. So I would write it disconnected. So I've really made it a point to, when I do speak about it, that I'm allow myself to be touched, because yeah, it was under 5, you know, I, as a protection mechanism, like left my body a lot, because that was just so painful. And this is something that I've learned I've done all the way through my business. I've literally put on this protection, because I had to let go of fear actually the other day in a breakthrough. And I cried. I was like, motherfucker, I feel like I'm letting go of an old friend. And I was like, why is this so hard for me to let go of? And I'm like, oh, because you were the only one there for me. Like, nobody helped me when I was getting sexually abused. I was alone. I was afraid. No one listened. Like, nobody said what's going on. I had nobody, but this fear that came across me protected me and numbed me, and I left my body. And it's so crazy that we all have this protection connected to fear. So it's like our brain's going, no. Keep it there, keep it there. So it was under 5, held that shit in. And I also in meditations get this clarity about like, because it's all patterns like that. It's, again, I was doing it in my business as a 36-year-old, shit that I was doing when I was 5. And I'm like, okay, so this pattern that I really saw was, it started before my sexual abuse, because I made this belief that I deserved to be abused. That's actually started when I was like a newborn. But I'm the oldest of 5, but the 4 of us are from the same mom and dad. The other one, he's a bit younger. He's only 14. So I was the oldest of 4, and all together 2 years apart, bam, super, super close in age. And I remember feeling like I needed to take care of my brothers and sisters because I felt like if I didn't protect them, nobody would. And I remember like giving them my energy. So this is something I've always been able to do, but I didn't click until I started, you know, stepping in my power and going, oh my God, I've literally always been able to share energy and like alleviate people's pain. But I remember feeling like it was a punishment. Like I loved them. It's not that I didn't love them and wouldn't have like died for them, but I created this energy around taking care of people and working that was a punishment. That's something that I carried all the way into my business. So it's like, okay, it can't be fun because it's exhausting, because I was giving energy rather than connecting to oneness and being around others that were connected to oneness and sharing, which is absolutely like electric and cosmic. So I created this belief, and every home video that I see, I'm like, oh, are you okay? And I'm just like doing this, like trying to make everybody feel better. And like, I'm like a circus show almost, like I had to be like up at 100%, like loud, laughing. And then I would do this like life of the party thing. Everybody's fine. Look at me. I'm going to go dance in the middle of the room. Like every home video, I'm just like totally have this mask on. I can see, like, I never got to have this beautiful, curious, like playful childhood. I just like immediately was like, you deserve to suffer. The shit's hard. No, you don't deserve to go out and play. You're going to go pick up your crying sister. You're going to give her all your energy and it's going to be a punishment. But it was like such a subconscious thing. So my dad is like this really spiritual, intuitive dude. He's Mexican and American Indian. So I just kind of feel like that shit comes with you. And my grandma was too, like she'd be super intuitive. And it was like it was a rough patch. My brothers and sisters started using drugs quite early, but I was the oldest, and at 15, because if I am truly honest, I only felt safe when I was with my dad. Like I had this really true safe feeling, and my dad like brought this like really incredible laughter into my soul. Like he was just totally authentic. Like he did crazy shit. He like let the mask off, and that was like really beautiful for me to be around. And when I was 15, I really needed therapy at this time for being sexually abused. I hadn't told my parents, like nobody knew, held it in. And what I did was separated. So I quit hanging out with my dad. I started partying and I started using drugs. And at this time, my mom and I, like, it was really bad. Like we'd physically fight. She had me when she was 19. So it was never a mom dynamic. I've always seen that I've craved this mom energy. Like, just the other day, I'm all, why the fuck is this chick like getting under my skin? And I'm like, oh, because she's older than me. She has this mom energy and she's just totally like putting me down. And it's like triggering. I'm like, dude, I always had that energy from a mom that just like, you know, put me down. It was a competition energy. So I just had to like do a freaking meditation and breakthrough and be like, okay, I'm out of hurt. This is a pattern that's old. So my mom and I were just like, it was gnarly. Like we'd fist fight, like she'd like always call me a whore. And this was this subconscious thing, right? Like, and I actually went full circle and was like, you know, she did the best that she could. Like my mom and I actually have the best relationship we ever have now. I'm proud of her. She's, you know, she did the best she could. So there's not a judgment there, because my mom did the best she could in the time that, like when she could. She didn't come out and say, I want to fuck my kids up, I'm gonna like call Lani a whore. Like she had no idea what was going on. But normally one of the big patterns, if you've been sexually abused, is you just go promiscuous and you just like, you know, because there's no boundaries. We had no boundaries. They were totally crossed. And because my mom was always calling me a whore, I like didn't do anything, because like I was just like, oh my God, the person that I'm trying to impress the most is like always calling me a whore. And I was like, well, that probably saved me like 10 years of, you know, banging everybody, because I had no boundaries. So I just kind of said, thanks, Mom, and like had to let that one go. So I did the thing, suffered a lot with getting identity from my body, like just punishment. It was a punishment in every area of my life. I'd attract and totally manifest friends that like, if I got to like, if I did something epic, then they'd like put me down for it. You know, it was like kind of that same kind of mom energy from women. And then I was just attracting really, really partners that were either cheating on me all the time or super controlling, abusive, controlling. I would go from this one would cheat on me and I'd be like, I'm never dating anybody like that again. And then I'd get in one where I like wasn't allowed to leave the house, couldn't wear makeup, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that was my choice. And then I'd go the other way, and then I'd go the other way, and I'd go the other way. Like I'd keep going, okay, that one was super controlling. I don't want to do that again. That was scary. And then I just go to one that partied all the time, and all addicts. I dated all addicts. So I was just kind of bouncing from one extreme to the other. And I actually started a business when I was 26 in Orange County, a clothing boutique with my cousin. And we took out a big ass loan, and then the housing market crashed like right after. So it was like 3 years of just barely making ends meet, like barely making enough for bills. And I had been always flirting and saying every day, like, if I didn't live here, I'd live on an island. I'm like, just not really into it. I like gained weight. I lost touch with my yoga practice. I was just like partying. And then I was like dating shitty dudes. And I'd go from kind of like being super skinny and then super like chubby and overweight. And I just felt out of control. So I got bought out. I sold my share, and I bought a ticket to Bali. And it was just an intuition.
So I have a couple questions. So tell me about your yoga, because I know in some of your information you talked about that and you just referred to it. When did that happen? When did you, because you were, I think yes, you had this destructive pattern with men and with your body, but you were trying to also do things that were good.
Totally.
So
yeah.
Tell me about some of the things you were trying to do to help yourself, but you were like on this hamster wheel that was a little dysfunctional.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So my thing was I always wanted to be perfect. That was like my addiction, where my brothers and sisters went to drugs. So it was like I got straight A's all through college. I graduated on the dean's list. Like I literally got a 3.9 all through my entire college. That was my thing. I was like, I'm going to be perfect. So it's pretty gnarly and it's an addiction, because that's a really heavy weight to carry. I'm never going to be perfect, but I like was stoked that I had that one instead of, I wouldn't just go do drugs when shit got tough. I was like, all right, man up. So I started gymnastics when I was 5, and that was like huge for me. I had a team. I got in trouble if I did things that weren't cool as a kid. There wasn't much discipline going on at home. My dad was working. He was gone before I woke up. So gymnastics was this incredible way for me. I had extreme amounts of energy. Like I literally was bouncing off the walls at all times. And they were like, we think we need to put her in something to channel her energy. Like I was insane. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I worked out like 5 hours a day, like starting young. We do like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Like I competed. There's always a little bit of, we're humans. So there's always some crazy stuff going in there. But that was for me this incredible release. And I learned that at a really young age. So I've never stopped working out. I would like go run 8 miles, or that was my thing. Like I'd bike ride, go to the gym, swim. Like I just knew subconsciously that like that made me feel good in the moment. That was a good release. So I have worked out my whole life, but I started yoga when I was 26 in the living room on this like Namaste channel. And I would just like follow these poses. And I was like, oh, that feels like pretty good. There wasn't any spiritual talk. We were just kind of going through poses and stuff. And then I noticed I'd back off from it when I was like tripping in my head and going through this crazy stuff in my party. And then I'd come back to it and be like, God, why did I separate? Like I'd say out loud, I feel so good when I'm doing yoga. Like, why do I keep separating? So I actually got my yoga teacher training. So I actually moved to Bali and was teaching yoga at the time.
Now, when did you get married? Was it in Bali or was it before?
I met him actually through Instagram, and he was living in Australia. So I was in Bali.
Okay. So now you're in Bali.
It was 2015, yeah.
Okay. So you moved there in 2012 and you're doing yoga.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
What else is going on? And then you meet him.
Yeah. So in 2012, it's very unusual for me to do, I've always been the life of the party, like get me, I'm on the bar, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not a problem, but to do shit by myself, because I've come from a really codependent family, you know, we all did everything together, shared a room until I was like 18, like my parents are super codependent on their partners. That's where the toxic partner stuff came from. So that was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, like to move across the world by myself and just sell my shit and be like, okay, let's go for it. So I got here and everyone would be like, why did you move here? Why did you, like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's dangerous, or blah, 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 all the stories. And I couldn't really give an answer because again, it was my intuition. I literally had heard a voice that was like, come to Bali when I was in Orange County, just like dying inside. So I didn't know. And then I started a meditation course just pretty shortly after I moved here. And that was the first time that I had this understanding of presence, this understanding of this addiction that every human has to like be wanted and needed. And we just like feed this ego. And I was like, oh my God, I was brought here for this purpose, like to learn about this. Like, this is where my suffering is coming from. So that planted the first seed. I did that for about 7 months. And now meditation is a huge part of the way that I teach. And I've actually had to come back again to that full circle, because obviously I wasn't, when I'm in the abusive parts, I separate from all the things that make me feel good. And then my next step was I got a life coach. So this was like the first time we still, I believe that we heal in layers. I don't believe that you could like, I mean, I haven't seen anybody that hasn't been like totally ready and open. Like I see when someone's energy field's closed, I'm like, you're not like ready for my work. No offense, no judgment, but we can't do this work while you're closed. That's just not how it's going to happen. So I had a life coach, and it, like in our first session, I was telling her like, dude, I just got in a fight with my mom and my neck went out. I'm over this. Like, I'm a grown woman. Like and then my ex cheated on me like 50 times, and he moved to Bali for me and then cheated on me again. And I'm like, well, I can't do this anymore with the men. I just need some help. And then I actually told her that I was sexually abused. I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna get it out there. Like, I can't get the help unless I'm really truthful. And in that first session, we chatted, and then I was like crying and she was crying. And I said, you mean I'm the one that's creating this? Like, I just couldn't like believe it. So that was a huge eye-opener for me. And then again, I did layers. But for me, and I'm not saying everybody needs to get on a plane and move to Bali, but for me here, I did some radical, bizarre healing that is just kind of super mind-blowing and super out there. And I was open to ancestral healing and energetic healing. And for me, this was just the perfect journey. Like, I get that I came to Bali to really heal, to face my demons, and get to the root of it. So I then met my ex-husband in 2015. So I'd been doing this work for years. Like, I'd moved to Bali, I was teaching, I was doing the work for years, I was doing my meditation. And I just manifested the craziest, scariest, most abusive relationship of my life. It was like every shitty thing that ever happened to me now was staring at me in one person, and I married him.
So why? I mean, did you not, he was in Australia and you met on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. And then I flew to Australia.
Okay. And what made you say yes? Did you not know? Was it denial? Because you're doing this work.
I fully knew.
You did?
Oh, yeah. There's two of these deep-rooted stories that I hadn't broken yet because we hadn't gone deep. And in some of the coaches that I had, they were still, instead of kind of being like, okay, this is a mask, or however you want to word it, because every coach has their own language that they use, but I was still like being told to feel guilty. Like, I remember in one of the healings, the teacher was like, you don't always need to be like the first one that goes out there, but that's my personality. It's just not when I'm doing it because I need attention, but that's still me. That's still what I do. It's just coming from a different energy. So I was like, okay, well, I learned these little things, like, okay, kind of be embarrassed of your, like, impulses then. And then my life coach actually, when I started a website, because I was like, I'm ready to branch. Like, I know I'm doing yoga, but I want more. I know I'm meant for more. I know I'm meant for more. She was like, well, your pictures are like really sexy. So they kind of kept this guilt thing kind of circling around me. And my ex, it was a totally typical abusive relationship, but I had this thing where I wanted to save everybody. Like, that started with my siblings. I literally almost killed myself trying to save them because they were drug addicts. That's like one of the big reasons I moved to Bali and listened to my intuition, because I was going through this drug cycle with them. Like, you know, I mean, I was fully enthralled and I went into full victim mode with them. I was like, my siblings are drug addicts, and I'd stay up all night and I'd have so much anxiety and I'd like miss work, and I just like fully like attached to this victim mode, because like that was a really easy place for me to go into since I was sexually abused. It was like victim mode. I just like go right into victim mode and lose my power. So A, he was an ex-addict and sober. B, he was like, you know, doing the love that I knew. Chaotic, yelling, controlling, called me a whore, that triggered my mom thing. Like, it was just like the same. It's like, dude, no wonder I married him. Like, it's nothing new. I mean, all the abuse that I've gone through, just, it was the same. There was no new abuse. I mean, this is everything that I've gone through. So it was comfortable. And I had this deep yearning need to be needed. And it was almost like, what I can see now is if I saved him, then it was like I was saving my siblings. It was just that same energy. And I hadn't gone to the root of it. I hadn't gone to the root that when I was born, I had this experience where I decided I believed that I deserved to be abused. I had never done that. I had never gone to the root. And yeah, I got myself really deep. I had no family. I had no job. I had no money. When I tried to buy a ticket out of the country, he'd call the bank and say my card was stolen, so they'd cancel the airline ticket. I had nothing. Like, he'd hid my passport, he'd physically hold me, and I got myself really, really deep.
When did you realize all of that and decide you needed to get away? Because now you're, like you said, no job, no money, he's controlling everything. You know, the only option you have is trying to get back to California. And was he in Bali with you, or were you in Australia?
No. Yeah, I was in Australia.
Okay, so you weren't anywhere familiar.
No.
How did you come to the realization of what you were doing? When did you get to the root of all your shit and then decide to leave? Because leaving a situation like that is more, and people don't understand unless they've been in it, it can be more terrifying than staying.
Right.
So take me through that a little bit.
Yeah, fully. I actually just wrote the other day and I was like, literally in my head, being alone was scarier than being with him, which is so backwards and so confusing. But then again, I have this like old fear from when I was little that's been protecting me since I was a newborn. When I got sexually abused, every time my mom called me a whore, every abusive relationship, like me and fear had this really solid relationship where, you know, okay, come in. And I saw all the women in my family being abused. Like my grandmas were severely abused, like severely. So that was just a really comfortable pattern that nobody talked about, but everybody knew. And as a child, you just emotionally feel that. So I tried to get back into meditation again, and it was just doing the thing, but I carved out a morning thing, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get into my meditation. I started writing again. And for me, writing is one of the ways that I really find clarity and I get a bit of my power back. And I started using movement because for me, that's like, I quit yoga again. So I started getting back into yoga. I danced a lot by myself. I just kind of like connect and feel in my body. And when he would go to work, I'd realize like, oh my God, because I just completely squashed out all my connection to my feminine. Like the source of our power is our feminine. This is the source. But when you have shame connected to it, like that's this whole backwards thing where you feel guilty for receiving. So I would just shut it off because he'd be like, you're cheating on me, you're such a whore. And he'd start fights if he thought somebody was looking at me. So I learned that I like petrified it and just shut it off. So when he'd go to work, I'd like turn it back on and be like, oh my gosh. And then he'd come home and I'd turn it off again because I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want him. So I started writing. I started carving out time for my meditation. I read like Eckhart Tolle. I read this book that just really like talked to my soul. And one thing that really stuck to me, but it took me a couple months to do, was like, you have two choices. You can either quit complaining and accept what you're doing, or you can fucking move. And I was like, okay. So I tried to accept because my parents got divorced when I was 10, and that was like really traumatic. And I just, in my head, had the story that I'm never getting divorced. That was another story that I held, like, I'm a failure at everything. So this is the one thing I'm not going to give up on. And he just needs some love. And like, if I love him enough, he'll change. And because he promised me he would change a million times. Like, there was never a lack of I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. I'll change. I love you. Like, there was never that lack. So I was like, okay, I kind of started taking the mirror and being like, what can I do about this? And I started working on myself when he was gone during the day, and like meditating and reading and YouTubing, any kind of, I knew that I just had this gap. Was powerless. I was separated, like YouTubing, anything that I could kind of get my hands on. And I didn't get to the root of it, but I did open my field up enough to receive a miracle. And what I had to do was lie to him and say that I needed to come back to Bali to get stuff for the visa, which I actually probably needed to do, because I did try and do it from Australia. Because like from Australia, you need all these crazy visa papers that I couldn't get unless I came to Bali. And I got another big help, another big miracle came in. So I knew that I was kind of leaving, but I did do the thing where I was like, maybe he'll change in the 2 months that I'm gone. And then if he changes, I'll come back. So I opened up my field enough to receive these miracles. I got back to Bali. I still did the thing with them fighting and blah, blah, blah for a couple months. And then the root of my problem came after that. I felt like I literally would say that my rock bottom was I was alone in Bali with no money, with no partner, with no family. That was my rock bottom, right? It wasn't when he was throwing me across the room, calling me a whore. Like, it was when I was alone and feeling all my shit. And I was like, dude, this is like, at one point I didn't feel like I could go on. And I, again, opened up for long enough to get a miracle. And with conviction in that moment, I decided I'm never going to be in an abusive relationship again. And that's the thing that you say. Like, I mean, it was an infinite amount of times I told him I was breaking up with him. Infinite amount of times I said, I'm leaving you. Infinite, right? You just say the same thing over and over and there's no action connected to it. And with conviction in that moment, I said, I'm never going to be in an abusive relationship again. And I discovered in my own meditations that I had to get to the root of these. So I actually guided myself and was like, holy shit, this pattern started a really long time ago. And that's when I saw the pattern that I like decided and believed that I needed to be abused. And so these are the pattern. I'm like, this worked for me. This is the only thing that worked for me. This worked for me. I did therapy in Australia for like a year when I was with him, and he came for a little bit, but that didn't do anything because we're just focusing on, okay, you can't like go through a phone. You can't call her whore. And we were just, it was surface stuff. It wasn't getting to the root. So I didn't actually break that until I was alone, which you're right, is scarier than being with him at rock bottom, and then pulling from all the incredible spiritual workshops that I've done and then breaking through these roots.
What were the miracles? What was that miracle that happened?
So the first one that happened was I got some money. I got an exchange for a job. So because I knew he was giving me nothing. I knew I was going to come to Bali with nothing. So I got offered a job for 2 months and I was like, I can do this. This is the miracle. I can totally, this is what I need. I just needed money. So that was the first miracle. And then the second miracle was, I've never been suicidal, but at that moment I hadn't been sleeping. That's what happens with me when I get anxiety. So it was like a week of not sleeping, a couple hours. And I felt like I just didn't think I could be here. I was like, I don't even know what being suicidal feels like because this is so gnarly, but I don't feel I can go on. And I called my dad. And what I can see now is like he shared his energy with me from California. And I was just like, I'm getting emotional just talking about it. I was like, Dad, have never been so dark. I don't know what the fuck. And at this time I hadn't told my family that he was abusive. I was hiding that shit from everybody. Like I just didn't want anybody to know I wasn't perfect. That was like so hard for me. So ashamed. Why would a yoga teacher who's doing all this spiritual work marry an abusive man? Like what an idiot. I had the shame. I felt like it was my fault. I just was punishing myself over and over. And my dad just shared his energy with me. And at that moment I was like, okay, I just freaking dug deep and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then I also like saw this incredible quote. It was like a whole bunch of like Tony Robbins and all these like incredible entrepreneurs. I was like, you think that I fucking wake up every day and I feel good? No, I do the shit that I know that makes me feel good. Like, and it was just like reiterating, like, you don't feel good every day. Not everybody has what they want every day. They've all suffered severely. And I made a decision at that moment, like, okay, my past isn't going to define me. And like, if I can just dig deep and open up a couple times to get miracles and then make this, I literally just changed my mind. I didn't like get a magic pill. No one gave me $1 million. I didn't get a new house. I didn't get, a freaking diploma. I just changed my mind. And I literally was said out loud. I was like, I'm going to help women that are in the same position that I was. And it's like, that was 1 second ago. I'm going to help women that were like me 1 second ago. I changed my mind instantly. And then from then, like, fucking, it's been one miracle after the next. Like,
how hard was the divorce to happen? And how hard was it to finish that chapter while you're already moving forward?
It actually wasn't that hard because I was here and he was there and I knew he wasn't going to come. So I had blocked on every avenue except for this one email that I had. So like I could just pick and choose when I wanted to answer. And at this point, because I believe he could energetically feel that I was finally done. And because I wasn't opening up communication, call me anytime on, no, I blocked all of it. I had literally energetically said, I'm done. And I believe people feel that because a million other times before I had said I was done and nothing changed, that it didn't change. So I made boundaries and I only answered when I needed to and I kept it short, and he would want to do the thing like, oh, then I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Boundaries. So it actually wasn't that hard once I, decided.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your beliefs, everything for you, when you're doing all this work, I think this is so common, and now you work with women who do it. You're working really, 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 really hard, but not gaining a lot of traction, right?
No, like you just said, the hamster wheel is exactly what it is. Yeah.
And so but when you have those breakthrough moments, it's like, pow, like you're there. So you switched your beliefs and trusted, and it was really enormous amount of change very quickly, but you'd been building up. It's like every overnight success is 10 years in the making. It's kind of like that. You worked super hard for a long time.
I had done the groundwork.
You had, and then you kind of hit the point where you're like, well, the options are like moving back to California, killing yourself, going back to an abusive man or another one, or making a change, right?
Right.
So it was pretty quick. And then
super fast. Yeah. Fast.
So how did is this the same website that you had already launched, the website you have now?
No.
Let's go to that. You started this up.
Yeah. So the epic thing that I like to talk about, because I like to call it like a breakthrough and a quantum shift. Like my quantum shift was being in the most abusive relationship of my life, and then going deep, feeling that shit, looking my devil in its eyes and saying, I'm not letting you drive anymore. You're done. Like, thank you for protecting me, but you know what? I'm doing it another way. And after my breakthrough, I met my partner a month later. My soulmate, the first healthy relationship I've ever had. And I've never seen a healthy relationship. I've never seen one in my family. They just don't exist. It's something that I just put my faith in, right? Like your higher power. You don't see your higher power. You just like have like faith no matter what. Like the faith, the trust is like so gigantic. So I just put my faith and trust that this is going to work. So at that time I was just like hustling. I was doing one session, getting paid for one session, barely making enough to make rent, giving all of my energy. Again, like I was doing the thing where I was giving energy, but that's not the way that it works. Like you said, you can't change anybody. Like that's not how, and it's freaking exhausting. I gave myself typhoid. I remember I went to my acupuncturist and she was like, dude, this is like a really gentle strand and you're super healthy. You should have been able to fight it off, but you've literally worked yourself to like nothing, no immune system, and you're super stressed out. So I was doing that thing. I had the idea that you had to work really hard to make a lot of money, but I wasn't making any money. So what the hell is that belief if you're not even making any money? So I had launched a website and it was just like, session by session, like $150 a session, like just basically making my life really hard because again, I was in like believing I had still had that punishment in business. Like I was like, okay, it still needs to be really hard. And when I'm on this low frequency, which is what I see with all my clients of trying to save everybody, because people come to me because of like they're attracted to that breakthrough that I've had. The clients that we attract in that energy are not doing the work. They just want to complain. They don't show up and it's exhausting. It's not fun. They don't want to have quantum shifts. They want to stay on the surface and then complain. So these quantum shifts that I do, like you get really, really uncomfortable. And again, that's why I said everybody's afraid of it, but I'm like, let's fucking do it. Like let's jump in, let's do it. Let's do it on the first session. So that first website was in my lower vibration, lower frequency, where I believed that I needed to work really hard on that. I had the idea that work is punishment, same that I started when I was little, taking care of my siblings. I met my partner a month later and he was like, you're getting messages from women saying that you're saving their life and like, this isn't normal. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's normal. And I was just like pushing myself down and he's like, that's not normal. Like you can help women all over the world. Like you're only helping people in your little circle. And like, that's just crazy. Like I see these huge giant things and he has a background in tech. So he has an online business. So he feels really comfortable in that realm. I'm not comfortable in that realm. I'm like, people start talking about tech and I'm like, I can't, my brain just like shuts off. I'm like, this doesn't work for me. Like, I don't get it. Like my brain just like blown away. So I resisted a bit because I said, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I've tried before because I tried when I was in Australia, but of course I manifested a whole bunch of other crazy shit. So I was like, okay, let's freaking go for it. So a month later, we launched an online yoga-esque women group coaching business. And it worked. And then we just upped our game and we got a new coach and we got a coach that was like, shit's going to get real. Like you've done so much work. You're absolutely incredible, but like you're holding back so much. You're literally at like 5% of like what you can be doing. You don't even know how powerful you are. You have no idea. And we invested 5 figures and we just put it on the credit card. We're like, we don't really have that money, but I'd never done anything like that for myself. My coaches had always been $150 a session. Like I had never, ever done anything and I had never had the quantum leap. So I thought, hey, I'm going to try something different. If I want something different, I'm going to try something different. And that actually belief in myself, because I've never spent that much money. I mean, these crazy money stories came from a long time ago. That just shifted something inside of me. I was like, oh my God, I'm worth 5 figures. Like subconsciously, I was like, okay. And within 2 months, we were making 5 figures. And like, we made our investment back in 1 month and 1 day from our business coach. And we had we did this on our own and we pulled in a big client, but I was still doing the thing where I was like, every day, give my energy, exhausted. So we kind of phased her out and was like, okay, that's like the price point we want, but that energy giving thing where you don't really show up, that's not what we want. So we just shifted. And now I'm like, feel so proud of what we've done, our business every day. Like I told you, even from just when I was emailing you the other day, like I just feel like every day I'm having these incredible breakthroughs. Like, this morning I woke up from this crazy dream I was telling you about, and it was about my brother, just want to save my brother. And I was like, okay, that energy puts me in a prison. I cannot manifest what I want in this energy. I'm hurting my incredible, beautiful, pure living partner with this energy in my stomach. So I'm going to like, boo, let that go. Like every day, I feel like I'm just being able to just be free. And then when I don't feel good, I'm like, okay, guess what I did? I went back to the old shit. So like I nip it in the bud in a second. I don't go down to do the thing where I go to like full self-sabotage behavior and like get in a shitty relationship or attract a shitty client or give my energy to somebody who, you know, I catch that shit before I throw my neck out or before I get typhoid or before I like do something crazy, because that's all it is. It's my fear coming in going, oh, hold up, it can't be this easy. It can't be this good. You deserve to suffer. Let's punish yourself. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I bring this joy into every part in my relation with my body, my relation with my partner, and my business.
Now you guys are doing the business together.
Mm-hmm.
And was a tech guy. How did that work?
He was actually corporate in London for like 10 years, super overweight, super miserable. He moved to Bali like 2 years ago. And so we actually met in Bali, and he loves nutrition. He coaches CrossFit. He basically just had this idea that like I was overweight and I tried to starve and that didn't work, and I was miserable and that didn't work. So he just taught himself. He was like, taught himself nutrition, got certified CrossFit, got certified in personal training, and he did the work himself. So then he wanted to help people like him. So he, for the last year before we met, had been learning online, funnels, modules, marketing, sales. And like when we met, like, and we launched the business a month later, I was like, I feel like we've been training our whole lives for this. Like, this is your gift. And my mom's always like, why didn't you do this before? Oh yeah, because you didn't have Chris. Like that's not my gift. Like I did build websites and they sucked. They were confusing and it was awful and it was miserable. Like that's not my gift. So we just stick to our gifts. He does all of his amazing things and I do all of my amazing things. And he actually just branched out and like, so does all of ours, but now that we have our flow and like we have all of our marketing and sales funnels and everything in order. So now he does sales funnels for other people. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. If I'm on the computer for like an hour, I'm like, I need to like go touch the ocean or like feel the green leaves or like breathe. Like I need that connection. And he's like, I love being on the computer. So we just stick to our gifts and it like works amazing. And he knows like my soul. So I'll be like, okay, for the new logo or for the website, like, and he just freaking puts out this absolutely perfect reflection of like, if I could do it.
I love that. I have a partner like that also. And, you know, when you balance someone asked me once, are you good at everything that you do? And I'm like, yeah, because I don't do the shit I'm not good at.
Exactly.
Which is an exaggeration because like clearly sometimes you have to do the things you're not good at.
Or you're uncomfortable with. I do shit I'm comfortable with every day. But
right. Yeah. But when you find somebody that has that balance, like, okay, it's just you do your part and I'll do my part and we meet in the middle and it's really great.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. Now, I like to start on a happy note and I like to end on a happier note. You two,
cool.
You and Chris are publishing a book?
Yeah, so I am writing our first book and it's called My Vagina is My Superpower.
I know, that's all I know about it, but like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pre-order this because vagina is also my superpower.
One of my friend's moms, when I posted on Instagram, she is like, she's English. I think she has like 7 kids from like 8 different dads. Yeah. And she wrote, your vagina is not your superpower, it's your weakness. And I was like, oh, bless you, Granny Di. I'm like, I know, I get it. You know, she's like 70, like she had that struggle. But here's what I mean. And what I've said to you about shifting every day is I'm getting even more connected and getting even more in my oneness. So I said pleasure has no boundaries. And that means like eating chocolate, drinking wine, making love with your partner, receiving money, cosmic and universal energy healing. Like for me, it has no boundaries. And I held my stuff in for so long because I was so ashamed. And that broke me. And when I started to realize that the people that I looked up to the most had actually hit harder bottoms than most, like Tony Robbins and Oprah Winfrey's been sexually abused. And you know, Lewis Howes has been sexually abused. Like, I'm just like, wow. So when I made this shift, I've never had a healthy sexual relationship in my whole life. And people that everybody I meet that's been sexually abused said they had to go through healing. Like, you have this really, you know, gnarly sexual experience. I either felt like a whore or I would totally numb. And then I didn't have this in between. So Chris, my partner, is just like, when I told him, I wasn't planning on telling him, and it just came out. And I mean, I expected him to be like, look at me like I'm broken, like everyone else has looked at me when I've said it. And not even in a judgmental way, just in like, how can that happen to you as a child? And he was like, okay. Like, there was never one sense of these eyes looking at me like you're broken, or he never felt sorry for me, like in this way that like made me feel like a victim. It never. And I was like, what the, like, I was almost testing him, like telling him shit just because I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. And I was like, he's going to leave. Like, this can't be real. He can't be seriously okay with everything that's happened. He was. And through his like pure total acceptance of who I am, never saying tone it down, I mean, I always got the tone it downs, you're too loud, you're too much. And never once, he just like lets me shine. And he's like, oh babe, like I taught a twerk class the first night I met his friends. We went to a party and they're like, you twerk, we saw your Instagram, can you teach us? And a guy, he's the one that wants to learn. And Chris is like, no babe, like, where I would never have had that before. You know what I mean? It's like, so we were making love. And for the first time, I didn't have this feeling of shame, which I wouldn't have been able to describe it before, but it just was sitting there in my feminine source that is meant to be this pure connection to the universe. And I actually opened my energy field, which I didn't really know that that's what it was at the time, but that's what I do with my clients now. So I opened, because the only way you can receive is if you're open. You can't receive if you're shut off, right? The miracles can't come in. Mm-hmm. I opened up and I felt this pure connection, and that's now how I guide my clients to the cosmos. And I had a pure orgasm, and it came from my soul. And as soon as we finished making love, I was like, oh my God, my vagina is my superpower. And he was like, okay. And it's just so much greater than obviously an external stimulation. And I thought, this is my purpose. This is my fucking purpose on this earth. If I can feel this way, and the worst thing that ever happened to me when you're sexually or when you're a kid happened, and I can feel this, and I can break through this, and I can say in my body that I'm pure, which has never come out of my mouth before because I always secretly felt disgusting. If that's gone out of my energy field, and now all that in it is pure, and my purpose on this earth was to receive, and I can, then anybody can do it. Like, then dude, if you haven't been abused, then you have so much less to go. Like, you got this. You know, if I can break through that, then you can. And I just thought, wow, that this is my purpose. This is my gift. I'm teaching women how to receive. And specifically, I like entrepreneurs because of the fire that they have, because like it takes that grit, you know, to have a quantum leap, you can't be a quitter. And that's that. Yeah, that's it. My vagina is my superpower.
We're going to end on that note. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey and your business. I love it.
Thank you for having me. Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much for listening in to Jen Taylor Rerouting. Like, share, and of course, comment. I welcome input with attitude. Get a copy of my book on Amazon, Hello, My Name is Warrior Princess, or check out my website, jentaylor.net. And if you still want more, sign up for one of my coaching packages.